Hi, my fellow human beings. Happy Chinese New Year! Or whatever day I managed to get this video up. My upload schedule is a mess, I'm sorry. Anyway, have you watched the Spring Festival Gala yet? I did, and I want to kill myself. For those who don't know, CCTV's Spring Festival Gala, or Chunwan for the classy, is China's biggest annual TV program. It has been going on for more than 30 years, and watching Chunwan has become a yearly custom for many Chinese people to celebrate the Chinese Lunar New Year. I personally had a lot of pleasant memories watching Chunwan with my families when I was little. However, at some point during the last decade, somebody somewhere decided that, you know what? Instead of making a good show which everybody can enjoy, why not make the world's biggest cringe compilation with a main dish of nationalism propaganda, a side of consumerism, and a sprinkle of blatant racism? Oh my god, is that a blackface? Tell me it's not a blackface. This is not even fun anymore. In case I haven't made it clear yet, Chunwan is bad. Very, very bad. And it's getting worse year after year. Or maybe we're just having higher standards, you know? But I still watch it regardless because it's so bad it's good. And the audience reaction is a gold mine. I'll clap if it makes you feel better. Dude, you look a little too entertained. And the guy behind you is not taking it. Haha, funny. Oh, sorry, something in my hand. Let me try again. I hate my life. Before I get to the point, here's some common criticism of Chunwan. It's CCP's propaganda piece, it's ugly and tasteless, it's fake as hell, so on and so forth. These are all valid criticisms, don't get me wrong, and they are getting pretty old at this point. So today I want to talk about something different. I want to ask a single question that confounded absolutely nobody. Is Chunwan art? If so, what kind of art is it? Is it good art? Or is it something else? To start talking about these very pretentious questions, let's start with a much simpler one. Is Chunwan beautiful? Let's take a look at the very first performance of this year's Chunwan. You have all these people waving flower petals, you have these screen things on the roof, you have a huge flower in the background, you have a huge flower on the floor. There's so much information flooding your senses, and it's almost impossible to focus on anything. These choices confuse me a lot. It doesn't take a master artist to see that this view is simply not beautiful. It's too much. It's directionless. It's pointless. Let's make this clear first. I don't think any art can be objectively bad, and I don't think any art can be called bad art. But I do think certain artistic decisions can work against the artist's creative insight, making certain art project ineffective in delivering the artist's message. I will still use the word bad art, but just know that when I say bad art, what I mean is art that simply doesn't work. You might say, of course Chunwan is bad art. It's a propaganda piece. Of course it's supposed to be bad. But the problem is, propaganda pieces are usually good. In authoritarian societies such as Maoist China and Soviet Union, art is expected to serve a political purpose. That's why modern and abstract art is often condemned as pointless in these societies. Propaganda art needs to serve a purpose in one way or another. Propaganda arts need to effectively invoke feelings from the audience, feelings such as national pride, racial pride, or fear against a common enemy. Propaganda arts are good in their own ways. They pinpoint the vulnerability of their audience and create resonance among them. When I look back at the revolutionary opera from Mao's China, even with a cynical eye, I can clearly see how the performance managed to do its job. I mean, say what you want about the messages delivered by this art, but at least they work. Chunwan, on the other hand, doesn't invoke anything from its audience. It's so obviously fake and over the top that even the most heavy-handed material fails to deliver the proper message.
邻居们，告诉大家一个准确的消息：4月8号，我们这个城市要解封了。
When Chunwan tries to represent different cultures like they do this year, or represent traditional Chinese art forms, this representation also lost all the potential substance because they are represented as thoroughly as a PowerPoint made by a third grader. Now we talk about the performances themselves. Let's talk about the performers, the artists. Don't get me wrong, all performers in Chunwan are very talented artists, and some performances are legitimately good. I'm not kidding. When the stage is not going crazy with its information overdose, some performances are actually very, very enjoyable. However, the quality of most of these performances are being reduced by simply being in Chunwan. Look at this dancer, that's a cool dance. But the way he's placed on stage makes him look like a TikToker doing Fortnite dances in a Walmart full of TikTokers. And look at Han Hong, one of my favorite singers. And then this background makes her look like a weather broadcaster wears a wrong suit to work. And hey, these are good costumes, but what is with this Lovecraftian background design? Oh my god. The way these shows are being represented strips the artist away from the art. The best example of how Chunwan artists are being treated poorly in these performances are group dances. In group dances, the presence of a collective should emphasize the value of the individuals, not removing them. You are supposed to treat the dancers like members, not parts in a machine. The purpose of each individual in a group dance should be properly presented. And the biggest charm of group dance is to watch how people with different skills and identities work together to create art. In Chunwan, it's sad to see that despite so much effort spent by these talented artists, their presence is simply not being acknowledged by the final project they produced. Watching Chunwan is one of the few very rare instances where I feel the artists are simply not being respected by the stage. Finally, let's talk about ourselves, the audience. In the book Illuminations, the author Walter Benjamin made the argument that back when art is not reproducible, viewing art is considered a ritualistic action, which is deeply rooted in tradition. When art is not reproducible, the common audience are expected to look up to the artworks and appreciate them just for the presence of the original. The sheer presence of the original piece is supposed to invoke a sense of authority. However, according to Walter Benjamin, the technique of reproduction detaches the reproduced objects from the domain of tradition. Today, when art forms such as film, photography, video games, music, and theater are all reproducible through the internet and mass media, the viewing of art is no longer ritualistic or sacred. The art pieces no longer hold authority over the audience. When arts become reproducible, the audiences are encouraged to become experts and critics themselves, and judge art pieces as their equals. That's why all of us can be film critics or game critics, and that's a good thing no matter how obnoxious some people can be. Chunwan, on the other hand, is placed in an awkward middle ground. Chunwan is perfectly reproducible, just like all visual arts in modern ages. But on the other hand, it imposes its authority over the audience, and criticisms from the audience is not welcomed. When we watch Chunwan, we fully understand that all public discourses regarding the quality of Chunwan would be heavily censored, and the community's opinions are not likely to affect the art in any way. We, as the audience, hold no power over the art piece. No matter how hard Chunwan is trying to relate to its audience, The distance between the audience and the art is always there. We can never feel intimate to something we can't criticize, and we can never elevate the value of something we are not allowed to devalue. Watching Chunwan is like being in an abusive relationship with a narcissist. It imposes its authority over you, but the authority is never well earned. You care about it, but your effort to change it in the end will always be futile. The show is presenting itself to you, but you were never there. Conclusion. Unlike propaganda arts with the purpose of indoctrination or any modern arts with the purpose to invoke and to entertain, Chunwan is the art of erasure. It erases any meaning an art piece is able to deliver. It erases the artist from the performance, and it erases the audience from the art. From the producer's point of view, Chunwan doesn't need to appeal to anyone. It doesn't need to send any messages or make any arguments. Chunwan gains its merits simply by being there, to show the public that the show is here to stay no matter what, to show the world that CCP is capable of spending an ungodly amount of money on this piece of complete nonsense. In the end, Chunwan is not a piece of art. It's simply a display of power. However, from the audience's point of view, Chunwan can be something very different. Looking at the way it makes the audience question the very essence of art itself, Chunwan is almost postmodern. Just like the most frowned upon modern artworks that are infamous for their ugliness or bizarreness, Chunwan is also such a magnificent amalgamation of meaningless chaos that it makes you think of the meaning of art itself. The good thing is, more and more Chinese people are starting to look at Chunwan from a critical perspective. I checked some online comments right after Chunwan aired, and here's some of my favorite ones.
So this is what Chunwan is actually about. Hey, do you know you can win money by
TikTok
downloading
to win
TikTok?
real money?
Just download.
Are these people clones of each other? All I see are a bunch of rich people who probably make as much money in a day as we make in a year. And there they are, with their terrible script and terrible performance, praising life on stage. It's just so sad to me. This year's Chunwan has more singing and dancing than before. Usually, more singing and dancing means we're living in a good time. But we all know that 2020 was everything but a good time. No more are the talk shows that poke fun of the reality. All that left are the disingenuous coping and the absurdity of the world we live in. In the end, I do believe Chunwan is indeed art, and I think it will be meaningful for more people to think about it this way. I don't think we should look at Chunwan as some infallible sacred text or something. Seriously, who do that? But I also don't think it's a good idea for the wider Chinese community around the world to neglect Chunwan as something inconsequential. Chunwan is a useful tool, it is a useful reference. Therefore, it is meaningful to read it, to understand it, to play with it, to juggle it around in your hands, to, look at it through different disciplines. And I believe by doing so, we are actively empowering ourselves.同祝愿，祖国好，祖国好。